and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. My name is Chris Ringler. I am your toast host for this micro podcast. I am an author, filmmaker, oddball, pod guy, whatever, living in Flint, Michigan. You can find information about me and links to all my books at spookychris.com. I am an author and about 20 books, about 20 years. I've been doing this for a minute. I write dark fiction. I have some fairy tale collections in there and some kids books. So check out my stuff. You can find me on Amazon.com as well, Chris Ringler. I'm kind of around. So as I record this, it is late August 2020, middle of the coronavirus pandemic, or COVID-19 pandemic. So, one of the things that had occurred to me recently that I want to talk about was an experience I had a couple years ago. And I've written about it to varying degrees, but I think it's one of those things that's easier to talk about. So for me, I was never a kid that did great at school. I had a lot going on in my head that kind of kept me from being the student I may have been able to be. I don't know if I would have mattered. I think the whole school system is a little dodgy, just because I think we need all of that education, but I think there's a point too where we need to be taught how to live in the world, and not just like the old school home ec stuff, like this is how you make soup, this is how you wash dishes, this is how the basic stuff. I think we need like real life. This is how you balance checkbooks. This is how you pay bills. This is how you look for jobs. And they have piecemeal stuff like that, but I think it needs to be mandatory. Because there's a point in your education where as you're nearing the end there, you need, and again, like there may be more opportunities than I'm aware of. I mean, I graduated in 1992, so it was a long time ago. So forgive my ignorance on that. I hope you will. But there's a lot, as you reach the end of your school career, there's a point where you need to be able to survive in the world, because not everyone can afford to go to college. Not everyone wants to go to college. Not everyone needs to go to college. And not everybody is able to go right away. I was one of those spoiled brat lucky kids. My folks paid for me to go to school. It was like, hey, cool, you can get a full-time job, you can get the heck out of the house, you can go to school. I decided to go to school. I've had jobs since I was 15, so it's certainly not as if I was some, lazy teenager. I had never had like a full-time job. So everything, when I got out of high school, everything was scary. Everything was scary back then for me anyways. So the path of least resistance was to go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't have any passion to go to school. I just went. I went through 4 years, got a 4-year degree. It's a Bachelor of Arts in English degree. I still, at 46, don't know, quote unquote, what I want to do. And I think that's one of those problems, is we build kids up with this expectation, like, oh, well, yeah, like figure out what you want to do. What are you going to do with your life? What's your career goal? This and that. And I mean, unfortunately, I think it's great to have those in mind, because if you want to go be a doctor, if you want to do engineering, if you want to do manual labor, whatever, you need to know what you need to do those things. But I mean, the reality of the fact is that a whole lot of us don't get to choose. We end up in the marketplace and we kind of fall job to job. We try to, it becomes kind of like a video game where you're trying to jump platform to platform, hoping that you can, make better money, work better hours, work closer to where you live, that kind of a thing. Those are always the ideals. Have insurance, have a 401k, but things add on as you progress. But the the hope is that you can keep kind of growing in finding new skills and moving on. But most of us don't necessarily choose what we do. It's just you go for jobs that you have the skills to do, and then you hope you get more skills and better skills to move on to another job. And you either fall in love with what you're doing, or you just tolerate it. And again, that's not to say this. I mean, this is not terrible. This isn't like life isn't fair kind of thing, because a lot of people do what they love. But I think we need to let kids know that, hey, you may not get to do what you love for a job, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it for a side gig, for a hobby, for fun. I love to write, so I write. I like to podcast, so I podcast. I don't make money at either. I sell very few books really over the 20 years. And people can make of that what they will, though I would say, unless you've read my work, it's not a fair thing to say, well, you ain't any good. Maybe not. I don't know. I think I'm better than some of the people out there, and I think I'm not as good as a bunch of the folks out there. Just, whatever. I write like I write. But I've never really been able to make regular money, certainly not money I could work, to take the place of a job. So I've taken jobs. And these aren't dream jobs, but I've come to appreciate them, and I've come to find the good in them. Because the thing is sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get by, so you can focus on the stuff off hours that you do love and your passions. My passions are like I said, writing, podcasting, art stuff, hanging out with my wife, my dogs, my friends. Doing these weird horror events. I had the money to do the first horror convention, that seed money, from a tax return when I was only making like $10,000 a year, many years ago. And from that, I had an angel investor and had some friends invest in the event. So, and we got some sponsors and stuff. But we certainly didn't have a ton of money, and one of those things too, and this is a side thing, is that it's astounding what you can do with very little, and that goes to every artistic pursuit, and kind of every pursuit in life, but it doesn't take a ton of money to make a movie. It doesn't take a ton of money to put a book out. It doesn't take a ton of money to do a lot of things. It's just the passion and drive to do it, and to find a way to do it. So that's what we needed to do. I wanted to, and my friends that worked with me wanted to put a convention on, so we figured out how to do it. That's just that's how you did it. We were realistic. But I wish I had a chance to get more skills in high school. I had a chance, and once I got to college, it was just a matter of I was just trying to chug through to get a degree, because everything costs money. So the idea of just taking classes to take classes isn't the smartest thing to do, because unless you have this money, falling out of your pockets, you really need to be working towards something. And again, that's on me. I was a grown man at that point. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and there weren't really a lot of people to guide me, to tell me what to do. I had a professor who was amazing, and I adored her. And I talked. She's like, well, what do you want to do? I want to write. She was like, go to college. And I was in a 2-year school at the time. And she was like, go get a 4-year degree. Go to university. And I was like, well, it's like, to do it. That's great. You want to write, and absolutely do that, but you need to have the degree. And she was right. It's. I'm sure a bunch of the jobs I've had I would not have gotten had I not had a 4-year degree, because it's one of those things where they look at what you took classes in and all that stuff, and it's ridiculous that they look at grades. I can't with that. Jobs are so silly. But more than anything, it's the idea that it shows that you stuck to something and through something. And had that commitment, and that's important. That's one of those important things. But I needed. She was right. I didn't want to go to get 2 more years of education, and I needed it though. And my counselors never really guided me towards anything. They were just like, oh, hey, you need this class and this class and this class to get your degree. You need this to get a degree. It was always degree focused. It was to get through. This is where you go. And again, I was a grown man. It was my decision. But it stinks that I didn't have someone saying kind of, what do you like to do? What are your passions? Like, let's see how we can guide you forward in your passions. And I think times have changed, and they may do that more. I got kind of screwed on a few things in college that weren't my doing. I remember I ended up taking an extra class I didn't need because the counselor I had at the time didn't look at things right, and didn't add up my classes right. So it's silly. Shoot, I didn't even get my 2-year degree because I had enough to transfer, and I was just short at the time by I think it was like a phys ed kind of a thing. They've changed it since, and now if I looked at it when I worked at that school recently, like last year, I looked at the requirements I would need to have gotten that degree, and it was like a math class, and so like they added classes that I would need, and it's like, no, I'm good. Like I got my 4-year, I'm good. I'm bummed I didn't get my 2-year, but I had enough. I got out of there with a ton of credits. So what's all this leading towards? So a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity. I've been doing the same job for years. I like the place, I like the people, but I was kind of at as far as I was going to go. I'm an admin, basically receptionist. So I was as far as I was going to go, and that's fine. But I was, I'm in my 40s. I have a wife. As of this moment, we have a child on the way. So, we didn't at the time, but you to me, you always want to be moving forward, and it stinks to kind of feel like, oh, this is it. This is all I'm going to have. This is all I'm going to be. This is it. Unfortunately, like I've had these jobs, and I would move job to job, and I don't have. I can do a ton of stuff. It's just they're not job stuff. Like the job, I don't have I can write like a fiend. I can shoot movies. I can do podcasts. So I can do like that kind of stuff. I can do creative stuff. I have a creative mind. I can do events, obviously. I don't have training in all of those. And I'm at an age where I don't want to invest a lot of money to be able to do those things, because it's like, cool, so I'm 46. If I ever found that money, I'm going to be 48, 49, 50, and try to start a career kind of thing. And maybe that's what I need to do. Again, this is all on me. This is not a life's unfair. But it's a weird, long, hard look at reality to kind of go, wow, like this is where I'm at. This is how old I am. I don't have the skill set to move into a position where I can kind of do better than I am. Because that's one of the things too, is we have these ideas of how much we should make and what we should do, and a lot of it's based on money, not happiness. It's like, well, I need to make X amount of money because I need to buy things and this and that, and I need to do this and that. And we focus on that and not the I need to be able to support the people I love and to have the time and money to enjoy my life. We don't look at that as often, which is truly what it all should be about. More money makes it easier to pay your bills, to do more things, sure, but time, as they say, is the one thing you can't buy. So it's cool if you work 80 hours a week and you're paid a ton of money, great, that's awesome. But that's a lot of time you don't have now for other pursuits and for the people that you care about. It's just something to think about. Well, so I had an opportunity a couple of years ago, and I applied for a different job. It's another admin job, but at a well-respected place in the city I live in and work in. And I knew the person that was hiring, and I was like, well, shucks, I need to try to do this. I need, like, as much as I enjoyed the people I was with, and it was not like I made bad money, per se, but I needed to feel like I was moving forward. So I applied, took forever, and ended up getting the job. And P.S., it makes me laugh all the time how long businesses wait to hire. They'll do the process, and then it'll take months. And it's funny because, I mean, I kind of moved on with my life and stuff, because it was between when I applied and they interviewed me, it was several months. And it's just funny because I would think it'd be like, hey, this is a need we have, let's fill it. Like, let's take care of this. Let's not, like, jerk around with somebody and waste their time and waste our time, and, like, no, like, do it or don't. Like, that's just how I am. I obviously am not the one to make those decisions, but that's just how I feel. Is you do it or you don't. That's just how, like I say. So I ended up getting the job. It was completely different than what I was used to. It was similar to an old job I had at a university. But it was rewarding because it was different, and because it got me in the community, working with people. It was working on a program that, like, I really came to believe in. With the AmeriCorps program, so is getting young people, people just in general, to volunteer time to perform service. Long story short, and I should have known when I first. It's one of those things where you figure it out late. I didn't know when I hired in. Like, I hired in for a little bit more money than I was making at the time, but it was a great opportunity, I thought. But I didn't realize I was going in under a grant. And I mean, sometimes you take the job you can get, but the problem with stuff like that is that if that grant runs out, you don't have a job. Now, the plan for those kind of things is always to keep, like, oh, well, gosh, we're going to always keep getting that money for the grants, and we're going to, if you do well, and then we do well, and everybody's happy, and you're going to, but it always feels like you're living on borrowed time. It feels like you are, you don't feel safe. I lived it. I can say this. I didn't feel safe because I felt like, well, shoot, can I trust that this is going to be here after a year? And that, I'm going to be able to, have this job? I don't know. And I didn't know if I'd ever make more money than I made. Like, there were a lot of questions. And again, like, some of that's on me, though. I think there's a lot of things that jobs do it's crummy. And that's one of those things is to me, when you're hiring someone, I would be like, hey, Joe Smith, blah, blah, we want to offer you this position. And it shouldn't be like a quiz or like a guessing game. It's like, no, be clear with everything. Hey, Joe Smith, this is how much you're going to make. These are how many days you're going to have off. Like, there's the opportunity for you to advance in this, and to make a little more over time. It just depends on how how you perform your job and how the business is doing, and blah blah blah. We want you to succeed. We're going to help you succeed. That's the kind of stuff you want to hear. Because I don't want to treat it like I'm going in, punching a clock, doing my job for 8 hours, going home. Punch a clock, going home. Like, you want to feel like this is something you grow with. So I had this job, and again, like, live and learn, is I ended up having to kind of train myself at it. Like, they could throw a ton of information at me, and I had 2 jobs in a row like that. The job I had at the university, or the college, I had the same thing, is no one could really teach me what I needed to do, really. It was just like, well, this is what you're doing. And I hate that, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible to do that to somebody. because you're coming into something new, so there's always going to be a learning curve. Absolutely. And the people were patient with me, and they gave me, like when I came in, they had everything ready for me to start. Like, hey, here's your parking pass, here is this, here's this, here's this. Like, we'll find out about your insurance crap. Like, it was great. There's a lot of stuff about that job I liked. The people being, some of the people being part of it. But it stinks, again, like, someone should sit down actively. That should be planned out. Like, hey, this is someone coming into a job they've never had before. Why don't you sit down with them for a day and kind of help them through it, and then make yourself available. That's just what I would think. And I mean, again, like there were. I was thrown into the deep end of the pool, but not the deepest. So, I mean, obviously it could have been worse, because they kind of were like, oh, hey, do one, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Like, do this paperwork stuff that, that needs to be done, and some, filing stuff, and then we'll kind of catch you up to speed. But, I mean, literally the day after I left my old job, I started the new job. I had no time between, whatever. But, that first week I had a big meeting where I had to meet everybody. Okay, cool. And then right after that I had was it the same week or the next week? I think the next week I had a 2-day conference. So, and I still didn't know exactly what I was doing. I didn't even have a boss yet at the time. They hired me before they hired my boss. So it was very strange. And it was, I did the best I could. My boss came on. She and I became fast friends. We had, we did the best we could. We we bonded over the job and the just like kind of crazy things are, and we did the best we could. Cut to the next year, and things are kind of. I start going through some rough personal times. My mother was put in hospice and was dying, so things were pretty tough. So one day, I am in a meeting with my boss. Like, we went to go get CPR trained, and we're in this meeting, do CPR training. And somebody made a comment about, oh, hey, are you going to go to meeting X? And it was only about 6 of us, and then the instructor. And I was like, gosh, I had not heard about meeting X. And my boss proceeded to say, well, if you ever read your emails, you'd know about it. Well, that's something that wouldn't be true. Now, I definitely missed it in an email, but to say I didn't read my emails would be a falsehood. And again, it's one of those things where it was needlessly aggressive, because she said that, went and then did this like signing on thing. You had to put all your information into this computer system to get your CPR certification card. Did that and then continued to berate me about it. And I was in front of strangers. And again, it was needlessly aggressive, but it was also like, well, man, like, if you want to talk to me about this, I'm a grown man, you're a grown woman. Like, we have a good relationship as boss and employee. We could have had a talk, not around strangers. I was super upset. Text my wife very quickly, like, this is ridiculous, I'm out of here, blah, blah, blah. Well, the wonders of technology and my addled brain. I sent it to her instead, because it went, I thought I sent it to my wife. I must have sent it to the most recent person I'd texted, which would have been her, my boss. I immediately like, oh, God. And I tell her, I'm like, hey, I sent you something that was for my wife, just so you can delete it. And she's like, oh, I haven't gotten anything. And I was like, oh, God. So I immediately left in a hurry and went home and was very upset. Get a text message like, wanting to know what this is all about, and I apologize up and down. It's like, we need to talk. Like, this is not acceptable. Blah blah. And I was like, look, I would never, I tried to explain myself, apologize, like, hey, whatever. I'd never send that to you because I would never disrespect you that way. And again, it wasn't even anything terrible. It was literally, I'm out of here. I'm upset. This is BS. Whatever. So And that was a Friday, so I have to kind of stress about it the whole weekend. I'm like, they're going to fire me. This is awful. I need the job. So Monday comes, and my boss decides she's not going to work in the office, because we had a small office we worked in, she and I. It's like, she wasn't going to work in the office with me until we could meet with HR. So instead of trying to just sit down like, hey, let's sit down and talk about this, let's work this out, this isn't a big deal, let's just kind of talk it through. Instead of doing that, she decided to make more of a scene out of it, started working out into like a common area, away from, wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't look at me, wouldn't come near me, and things kept getting pushed back because HR had to we had like one person, and my boss had stuff going on and this and that, so it got pushed back like about a week. So I'm swinging the wind for a week when this could have again been dealt with instead of drawn out. So I'm super upset and super nervous and kind of angry that this is going this way. By the time we finally meet, I'm like, again, I figure I'll probably be fired, and I'm kind of mad about it, and my boss is very aggressive about it and keeps kind of pointing out, like, well, you censored me, so we need to talk about this. Is this your resignation? And I was like, well, no, it was for my wife. Well, this sounds like you're resigning. And I was like, no, because this was for my wife. And I didn't get fired, and HR kind of worked us through it, but my boss and our relationship was never the same after that. And she had all these reasons. Well, I had, she was pregnant at the time, and it was a high-risk pregnancy, and she had to be careful about her stress and this and that. And it's like, again, none of this had to be stressful. We were adults. But she also had come into a job. She'd never done anything like that before. She was an academic and took this job. So time goes on, I lose my mother, and I'm gone for most of a month. And I super appreciated the fact that my work supported me in that. Like I took time off and then worked from home as much as I could to kind of be there with my family. About a month after that, we lost our dog, one of our dogs, to cancer. So I had a real rough summer. So the end of summer comes, and I go to a second year of that training thing that I'd gone to the first year, and my boss kind of tells me she misses most of that first day, and she's like, oh, hey, just so you know, I took another job, so I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm leaving. And she was leaving in a couple of weeks, kind of, and I was like, oh, okay. So now suddenly I'm going to be alone. She has me. She's like, "Oh, you've got it. You should apply for my position." Like, absolutely. It's like, blah blah. You'd be great. You should apply for this. Oh, okay. I applied for it. Just before my boss leaves, and again, her and my relationship had gotten better, but it wasn't what it had been. But it had gotten better. She sat with my boss, the main boss I had, who was the VP of the place, and for a review, and I ended up getting a raise. Oh, hey, awesome. Got a 3% raise. That's fantastic. And then the wheels started to fall off of things. So my boss leaves, and I'm rolling solo. Well, in the middle of all this, we had some trouble with one of our members was lying on their timesheet and had maybe not gotten into a secure folder with passwords to things, and so there was a bunch of mess, and I was on the job for it. And there was a bunch of meetings that she was fighting stuff, so it was a big to-do where we had to have statewide people come in and mitigate an issue because we were trying to kind of legally, as it were, find a way to remove her from the program. But she, because she was a different type of a service member, she had more opportunities to kind of fall on her face. And because several steps had failed, she kind of got away with things. And that's where we started getting into troubles. We had a bunch of members. So there are two different types of members. One type, you have to, both of them are determined on you have to serve X amount of hours in a year, like 1,200 hours. But they work in schools. So that limits kind of the hours they can do. It has to be kind of this and that. And then they have certain roles. They have to fulfill the roles that they are. They can't just go and, sweep or whatever. They have to do certain things within a criteria. So I had not been on my game for a minute, and I own it. I own that completely. So I would have to go and check timesheets, and I did, but I was missing how some of these people were there or weren't there, and I was missing days that they should have been there or weren't there, and kind of screwed up some of the timesheet stuff. But the problem with that is that these folks have managers at their sites who should have been doing the same thing, making sure that their hours are matching up, and they weren't. So as the wheels started getting wobblier and wobblier, and that's starting to happen, my boss kind of comes in one day and it's like, you can't think that you would get that job, right, for the main position. You can't think that you'd get that, right? And I was like, okay. She's like, yeah, you're not ready for that. Maybe next year, but you're not ready for it this year. I was like, okay. That's one way to handle that. Another way would have been to treat me with respect, but hey, that just wasn't her deal. And again, I'm a grown man. It's not like, oh gosh, I just think you're just not ready for it. No, I just want to be treated like an adult, like someone that is a valuable member of a team, and that you don't disrespect, because that was kind of disrespectful. But hey, whatever. So yeah, things started going off the rails, with stuff like that with membership. I was told kind of, I screwed up a bunch of stuff. It's without getting into I screwed up a few things, but without making excuses, I will say I had just lost my mother after watching her die over the course of a month and a half. And then I got to watch our dog die over the course of a month. A dog we'd had for 4 months. Then my boss left, so things weren't great. And there was never a time when anybody reached out and was like, hey, are you okay? What can we do to support you? My boss would say that, hey, what do you need? Do you need something? Do you need anything? But it was always very much like, I'm busy. Do you need something? I needed somebody, I needed a lifeline. And they didn't have the time or interest. And I can see both sides. I really can, because I can see the side of, hey, they hired me to do a job. If I can't do it, then I don't need to be doing it. And I had reached a point where things were kind of getting out of my grasp. So I was in deep water. But I also think if you invest a year into someone, and I was part of that team, I just don't know why you wouldn't reach out and say, hey, what can we do? Let's work through this together. Nobody's dead. Nobody's dead. Let's figure things out. Because that's kind of how this was. I reached a point where everything I did ended up being wrong. Where almost every day my boss would come in to tell me something else I'd done wrong. So it was bad. I was absolutely miserable. And again, you reach a point where you're just you feel like you can't do anything right, so you don't do anything right. And that was where I was at. And I was depressed and unhappy just to the nth degree. So finally, one day, my boss kind of rushes into my, the office where I'm at, my office, and she's like, "I sent you an invite for a meeting for Friday." And I was like, "Okay," and then she rushed out again. I had never been fired in my life, but I knew what a Friday meeting at 4 o'clock was. And she came in on a Tuesday to do this. And I was just like, so you're going to make me wait for the whole week? Like, okay. Well, naturally, because everything has to work out the way it does. So later that day, I get contacted that one of the members we have had gotten caught on video stealing something from one of their sites. So I had to run back to work after hours to get this person's phone number, to call them, to tell them to come into the office and not go to their site, so there could be kind of a big meeting to basically let them go. So that Wednesday, I got to sit in on someone being fired, essentially, which was fantastic. So I kind of, went through the day and decided the next day was a big meeting, a full meeting with all of our people. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to go to a meeting where everybody knows I'm going to be fired. I know I'm going to be fired. And have to sit there, because that's just, no, I wasn't going to put myself through it. So I just didn't go in. Like, I called in, like, not going to be there. I had time to take still, not going to be there. Friday came, I kind of cleaned up my desk. Anything that wasn't that I had created, or that wasn't like inappropriate to get rid of, I got rid of. All of my files and stuff. I finished some filing I did. I put my I'd taken all of my personal effects home. I put their stuff back to rights. I took all my files off. It was funny too, because I remember I'd kind of cleaned up, did a wipe of the computer, like the passwords and stuff. And then I was like, well, I'm going to try to get my email. And mysteriously, I was locked out of my email suddenly. And the IT person wouldn't get back to me. And it was all funny and just funny and petty, like that they made me wait a week to fire me. I remember talking to my ex-boss, super upset about this. I'm like, I just want to quit. I just want to go, because I don't want to play. I'm too old to play a game. I don't want to play a game. Just like, let me go. But my wife, was adamant, like, it stinks, but you need the unemployment, so you've just got to let them do their thing. So, kind of waited the day out. My boss came in like 3:45. It's like, we're ready for you. And then hurried into her room, and it was her and a board member. And I knew it was my last day, so I dressed for a death sentence. I dressed in a tie and, button-up shirt, but a tie, and wore my pea coat, overcoat and stuff, and I had all that, had everything I needed to go home. I had gotten my keys and my fob and everything in one pocket, and I went in there, and I was like, so you're firing me? She's like, we're going to be letting you go. And I pulled that stuff out, dropped it on the desk, told her, like, anything you need me to sign, you can mail me, and I left. And it was funny, because I had the one instant where she, like, looked dumbfounded at the board member, and he looked dumbfounded at her, and I just left. Because I would have loved to have one of those memorable movie speeches where you tell somebody off, but it wouldn't have mattered. She wasn't going to hear me. It would have come off just like an angry, disgruntled ex-employee. She had the board member there, one for legality's sake, and two, I'm sure, for safety in case I flipped out. And she just wasn't worth it. I always kind of wish I would have written a letter or something, but it doesn't matter. Because again, it doesn't. They treated me so callously and so heartlessly. It was funny, because I remember that day there was another employee that we worked with, and she had gotten a call, and I saw her crying on the phone, and I told another person, I'm like, hey, so and so looks really upset. Could you go talk to them? So it's funny that I did, and again, they were supportive when my mother passed, so I can't ever throw shade, but like, I returned to that though. Like, I never felt at home there, because there were cliques at that place. It was weird. People would come in and talk to my boss, and then they'd turn like, oh, hey Chris, and then they go back to talking to her. Like, I was kind of a plus one. And maybe that was me. I don't know. I tried to be funny and tried to be myself there, and it just wasn't working. I didn't connect with them. So I lost that job, and I languished for 8 months trying to find something. I ended up with that temp job before I ended up going back to what I left before. A miracle happened, and I ended up back where I started. And it's one of those things because the damage that job did to me is still there. Like and it's weird to say I'm screwed up, but I kind of am screwed up by it. Because I still see most of those people I worked with, because my where I work now works with them on programs. I mean, we work across, our buildings are across the street from one another. And I got to the lowest of the low during that 8 months. I finally reached a point where, and my father was like, hey, you don't have to make house payments while you're unemployed. And had he not done that, I don't know how we would have survived. And I reached a point where unemployment finally ran out. But I luckily found that temp gig just as that was happening. So I got real lucky. But it's strange, and that the long story goes to this, is that we always wonder why workers are so frustrated and why people demand $15 an hour for kind of lower tiered work. And the thing is this, is that the world ain't getting cheaper. It's not getting less expensive to live in this world. Though we like to look at people and it's like, well, you don't need to eat steak. You don't need to do this. You don't need. So we want people to live basically on ramen and water, and to not do anything, to say, to bootstrap it. Not understanding that opportunities aren't out there. I have a 4-year degree. I sent out 120 resumes. I got 3 interviews. Like, that's madness. That is absolutely madness. And you can say, well, maybe you're applying for jobs you couldn't get. Maybe. You could say, well, maybe you just did a terrible job on your resume. Maybe. But to think 130 resumes sent and jobs applied for, and I got 3 interviews, that's madness. Absolute madness. And I got tons of jobs that you'd apply and never hear back from them. I had a job that straight lied to me, like there was a job that was supposed to be for what was communications or something, and it was basically it was a sales job. And it's funny, I drove an hour and change to go to the interview, and spent 5 minutes in the interview. Like, it was crazy, because I got there and it was like, oh, well, blah 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 blah. I was like, well, as long as I'm not doing sales and I'm not like this and that, like, okay, and like never heard back from them, because that's all it was a sales gig. But it's so, in the process of job finding, is all of it's so disrespectful and inhumane. You submit your a resume to these places and all of these things, and then they're like, cool, well, we need 3 references. I don't necessarily have 3 references that can literally say, oh, well, Chris can do this and this and this, and like that know who I am and know my work ethic and know this. I can ask people at work, but they don't necessarily, like my old jobs, but they don't necessarily know, and I don't know if I feel comfortable like having people like that don't know exactly what I do. And it's weird if it's just one workplace, isn't it? But then you apply, and then you'll have to, oh, well, Josh, this job, you have to sign up for their website and apply on their website. You can't just send something in. You have to sign up for this website. So you sign up for an account. And then you can't, then it's like, great, you have an account. Look through jobs. You apply. It's like, great. Fill out this long form of everything that's in your resume. and some even ask for grades and stuff. Like, it's insane. It is absolutely insane. Like, I saw like a couple jobs that wanted your high school records, and I'm like, I've been out of high school for almost 30 years, and you want my records? That's stupid. The kid I was in high school isn't me at all. In so many ways, it's not me. So you're going to judge me by my grades from 30 years ago. Like, and it's sad. I know so many people now, smart, talented, educated people with passion, and they can't find anything. And that's what stinks about the COVID era, is that so many of these business places have taken this opportunity to cut workforce and to double up on jobs. And they're still getting that, trying to get that government money and stuff, and they're just like, oh gosh, we can't maintain this big of a staff right now, so we just really need to cut corners. And it's demoralizing, like looking for work. I mean, I remember, gosh, so long ago, being on food stamps, a long time ago, when I was between jobs. I had a university job, and it wasn't a firing, but they didn't bring it was a temp job, and I applied to be full-time and just never got an interview. It was whatever. But I had to go on food stamps. And it's interesting to hear the Republican Party, and again, this isn't a politics thing, but people that look at, folks, oh gosh, you're just taking advantage of the system, just bootstrap it, and you need to do better, and it's all on you. College-educated man who wanted to work, couldn't find a job, had to go on food stamps, and I was utterly mortified and ashamed to have to do that. And, to have to go in and do unemployment, and what that job put me through when they knew they were going to let me go, and they couldn't do it respectfully and say, one, they couldn't. It's funny, again, to like, you invested a year of time and money and effort into me, and to not sit me down and say, we see you're failing and flailing. We know you're better than this. We know that this isn't how you are. What can we do to help get you back on the right path? And that just was not their interest. I was not their interest. They had lost faith in me and wanted to move on. And it's, again, demoralizing and shaming, because these places can do this. They can just kind of like, meh, over it, and like, it's kind of like a ghost. You're getting ghosted on a date. You're done, and that's it. I've heard of so many jobs that escort you out and stuff like there's no humanity to any of this, and there's no humanity to finding a job. It's just a matter of like it's funny. All right, so we knew a guy who he had like an alphabet list almost of like, I want in a potential partner, I want A, B, C, D. I want her to do this and this and this. I want her to be into this. I don't want her to do this. And that's what jobs are like, is they don't hire your potential. They don't hire someone that they can train. They hire things that tick off boxes. I remember I applied in interviews. So maybe I had 4 interviews, because I forgot I had an interview. Well, no, it wasn't even an interview. It was a pre-interview. At an automaker for one of those helplines. And it went great. Everything's great. And then they decided they didn't want me. And I can't help, and there's no reasoning, but I can't help but think that because I lived about 45 minutes away, they just didn't want to risk me not showing up. And I can understand that, but they also needed to understand, and God knows I wouldn't want to work, maybe it was about an hour away. I wouldn't want to work that far, but I needed the job, so I would have done it. And yeah, it sticks with me to no end. And again, we're talking, it's almost been 2 years, and it is like the worst breakup I've ever had, kind of a thing, where it haunts me to have gone through that and feel like I wasted a year of my life for about $500 a year more to work with people that respected me less than the people I worked with before, that cared about me less, and that didn't have my back when rubber hit road. And it stinks. I mean, it's a learning thing, but at my age, you don't want those learning things. And it's, it's interesting because, like I say, we all have so much to offer. If only there were opportunities for us to learn how to better package what we have to offer, how to learn to better market ourselves, and if places would just take chances on us. And I get it that there's a point where it's like you can't afford to take chances because it's business, and you're not looking for interns, you're looking for employees. But sometimes the right person just needs you to believe in them and needs that chance. And a lot of these places don't bother. They'd rather have what they think they want, even if it means that the person works there a minute and then leaves and finds another job, or is a legit terrible employee, or isn't a good fit. They'd rather just look at this person ticks off all those boxes. That's who we want. That's the point to me of interviews, is to see what the personality is and to see how they are and see get a feeling for who the person is. But the job market, especially in this pandemic era, is worse than it's ever been that I can remember. And for all of you out there that need jobs, my heart's with you. I get it. Because people will say, well, just take whatever job you can find. Just take it. Well, unfortunately, you can even do that. And not every job will take you. Even the menial jobs, because people say, well, go flip burgers. Which is funny because we all, most of us use that, make use of those jobs, but we don't respect them. We treat them as if those people are in the jobs are beneath us, so they're almost barely human. So we'll go flip burgers. Well, not all those places will hire you because you can actually have too much experience, and they don't want to bother with someone who's going to leave. And it's not wrong to want more, more pay, more opportunity. It's awful to be in a position where you have no choice and you have to just take something. But that's unfortunately the situation sometimes. But it doesn't engender, loyalty or someone really wanting to put in the effort to become a great employee. So I get it, man. And I feel for anybody that's been through the mess like that or worse, because we all deserve better. It's just we're in a world that treats people like commodities and cattle, and as easily replaceable, and that's a drag. Because talent and skills and passion are never irreplaceable. But it's not always the world we live in. This is my longest podcast I've done on this, and I apologize for rambling. I just had wanted to get that out for a while. It's funny, too, that place I worked for is so well respected in the community, and it's just interesting to know internally what a dumpster fire they kind of are, despite the great reputation they have. So I guess some people know how to put their rugs over their dirt. So it goes. You stay safe and take care, my friend. I hope this finds you well, and I will talk to you again. Take care. Remember, you can find all you want to know about me at BookieChris.com. Bye.